Open wide for some soccer!
And the best time of the week is listening to that intro music here at the Canada Cop. This is JP Angelopoulos. Hope you guys are all doing well over there. We are coming at you from Halifax, Nova Scotia. It's been a rough week, but we're going to get through it together. And along with John DeLong and Ben Deutsch, we're going to kick off the Canada Cop here. John, how you doing, man?
Oh, well, I don't know how to answer that question lately.
It is a difficult question to answer right now. Ben, can you answer how you're doing after this weekend?
I'm just feeling like I'm really into 1-0 losses these days. It seemed to be the trend.
It seems to be the trend, and we're going to break that down more than once today, which is unfortunate. But we'll spin it too. We'll get some positives in there. Touch base on our Leipzig match coming up, because that is, 2 days away for us right now. We're recording on Monday, games on Wednesday. So hopefully you guys catch this before that match. We'll go over some other debate time segments. Got lots of ideas, lots of things that could develop for Liverpool, and try to get the brain juices flowing for the club. And a few more games since I have been dethroned as the champion and Ben took over. We now have a new game this week that I'll be hosting for John and Ben to battle it out. And then we will set up the next two matches, I guess, with Leipzig and then Wolves that are going on Monday of next week. All right, so let's kick it off, guys, with 1-0 loss number one. Chelsea. This is getting low. I was at a pretty weak point after this game. High hopes after that Sheffield. Ben, you weren't here with us last week. John and I were going over that Sheffield win with a lot of high hopes, John? That it was some good signs.
I mean, absolutely, and it did sort of, to me, feel like early points in that game, like we were maybe going to, like it felt like a very even game in the first half, right up until the goal that wasn't from Timo Werner. Which I've definitely said on this show. I've definitely bitched and complained about the offside rule and how like these offside decisions are completely ridiculous and couldn't possibly be caught by the naked human eye and couldn't possibly actually result in a real advantage for the player. I've said that like when it went against us as Liverpool. So now that it went in our favor, allow me just to say that was onside for all intents and purposes. Like Timo Werner did not have any real benefit from being in a quote-unquote offside position to score that goal.
You can't use that benefit. You can't use that you gained an advantage argument. It's your offside or not. Any part of your body that can score a goal is past the last point of another player or the second last defender. It's clear and dry. The handball stuff and all that stuff is all way too interpretable. That, unless you want to argue how the lines are drawn, which is a whole other argument there. But by the letter of the law and the way VAR works, that was offside. We've been burned by it. They've been burned by it. It is what it is.
I'm just saying, like, there's no... The point of the offside rule is about whether or not you're able to impart an advantage from being in an offside position. And, like, that is a matter of literal centimeters. I just do not see how anybody could argue that was the case. I'm not saying that it was the wrong call, because it was you're right.
You're saying it's the wrong call.
No, I'm saying that the law is wrong, not that the interpretation of the law was wrong. I'm saying that the law is wrong.
If you add in a term like the player gained an advantage, way too much interpretation, and then we're going to get down a crazy rabbit hole. But let's hold off on that, because we could go into offside rules up and down the yin-yang there. Ben, aside from the offside there, anything in particular on that game that was... Let's stay with positive for a second. Let's try to get off on the right foot here. Any positives from that game?
Yeah, I don't really know what the positives were. I mean, I think the one positive was a further demonstration of the flaws behind the handball rule. I mean, that exact same game, Spurs versus Fulham, wasn't it?
That was ridiculous too.
So, that was a handball on N'Golo Kante. However, we shouldn't be playing for a penalty when your first shot on target's in the 85th minute. So,
absolutely not.
So, as annoying as that was, that's clear and obvious at this point, pun intended, not the problem.
That being said, though, I'll take it. I'll take that handball. Call the game the way it's supposed to be called, and that hand was way outside his body. Obviously, made his body bigger, and they gained an advantage by the ball not dropping right in there. And that one on Fulham, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was right on the side of his arm, or side of his leg.
What I'll say is, like, under Conte one went down, I was just like, oh my God, I know what it feels like to be a United fan all of a sudden. What the hell? Like, I was having a galaxy brain moment of just like, this is what it feels like, because like there was no way that wasn't a handball. By the same token, I was not at all surprised that the call didn't go through, because that's just the way that refereeing is done in this division now.
Yeah, I mean, I was very confused by it, but at the same time, like I just said, the problem was we didn't get a handball. The problem was that our first shot on target was in the 85th minute.
Oh, absolutely.
Problem of the game, definitely. Yeah. And that one shot was a genuine Wijnaldum header that was very easily caught and saved and moved on.
Now, going back to your point, JP, the one highlight that I saw, and I hate to say this, Mason Mount's goal. Like, I mean, hey, if you were a neutral watching that game, that was quite a pretty goal. So we can all enjoy that.
It was, and I don't want to take anything away from it. They did catch Trent a little high on it, and then he came across. But I'm not faulting it completely. And I am curious, if it wasn't Fabinho's first game back, if he could have kept pace with him better and not given him the room to shoot. He did shoot through a very small window, and it was a nice strike. I will give him that credit.
It was placed beautifully, and
it was. Yes,
I mean, okay. So Trent was slightly out of position. I think if we want to go,
I'm not going to blame him for the goal.
If we want to go back to an old Canada Cup episode here, in terms of if we were to bring up the information up on the board here, I think we would maybe see that it was kind of the midfield's fault, but more so than Trent's. But ultimately, though, like, if you are playing the percentages as a defender, which you don't necessarily want to do, you're going to not think that Mason Mount is going to be able to put the ball exactly where he put it, exactly outside of Alisson's path of being able to get to cover the ball. Like, it was a small window, and he placed it perfectly.
Definitely, he definitely put it through a small window. That's a great striker's ability, and he's not a striker. Is to get that shot away with little room. On a different level, Phil Foden's goal against us, that was a shot through a small window, and he drilled it. But again, I would have loved to seen if a fully fit, 100% Fabinho, or I'm not saying he wasn't fit, but if he had a couple of games under his belt, if he could have been tighter and maybe not allowed that goal. But anyway, that's our own fault for maybe putting him there, because honestly, Phillips wasn't on the bench, because apparently he had a knock, so add another injury in the mix there.
That's just how he proved himself to be a senior Liverpool defender.
And who else decided to join that rank, eh? Kabak had an injury that game, and he missed the next one.
Yeah, because it was funny, because I thought Kabak actually had a decent game. I thought the defender who was the weakest, for me, was Fabinho.
Yeah.
I mean, understandably so. But I thought as a pairing, they weren't great, but I thought Kabak was half decent.
And again, and half decent. He's never done anything that says he's going to be great. It's like, oh my God, this is a prospect for the future. He's going to develop into Van Dijk's, roommate and best buddy forever now.
Roommate.
I don't know. Him and Gomez are pretty tight like that. And I'm not seeing anything extra. You're right. He's a decent and okay. I'm not complaining, but kind of hope to see more out of it.
I don't know, for a 20-year-old center back who has a haircut that makes him look about 16.
He is kind of baby-faced.
I have no real problem with how he's performed for us. He's been a little bit inconsistent, but I think he's been maybe a step better than Reece, which is kind of the best that we could hope for at the moment.
That is quite sad to say.
It is, but I
agree with you, though. I agree.
In terms of who we were going to pick up in January, even if we had picked up Ben Davies and Ozan Kabak on January 1st, in terms of who we were going to pick up in January, this is about what we could have hoped for. And I'm not going to say that it's something that we would be happy with under the best of circumstances, but under the best of circumstances, we'd be neck and neck with City right now. We're not in the best of circumstances anymore. We've left that behind back in
I'd say
October.
Christmas time. We're top of the table.
Still October.
Boxing Day, we were top.
We were top of the table at Christmas. Remember?
Yeah, but I think hindsight's 20/20. But I feel like we were on borrowed time then.
A little bit. I wouldn't disagree with that, because City were definitely not firing at that point. Yeah. The other thing that threw me off a lot, because we're now veered off the positives quite fast. Liverpool,
shocking that.
Yeah, shocker. Liverpool never seemed very threatening, and then the subs Klopp chose, bringing Milner and Oxen and taking Salah off. I was many of us, including Salah, were quite puzzled. And the only thing that I heard from Klopp afterwards was that Well, Ox performs in training like amazingly and so well, so he has to give him that chance, which I kind of agree with. But in any game he's been in, have you guys seen anything worthwhile from Ox this year?
I think I literally said this in our group chat, and I don't know, you guys can remind me if I didn't, but I think I literally did say this. Every time that he comes on the pitch, I'm just like, I like the guy. I think that he's good. I just don't think that he is a game changer. I don't know what he does for us any different than any of our other midfield options. Like,
and he went up front though.
Like Milner can come onto the pitch and like he kind of instigates a bit of defensive solidity in midfield, and he does like the dark arts things pretty well in terms of drawing
knows how to
time.
Clutch and grab and
like he'll draw time out of things and waste time in such a way that he doesn't get the yellow, but he can do all those things very well. I don't know what Ox does, and then you put him in an attacking position, which he's kind of okay off of the right, but he's not.
He's been back and forth so much with attacking in midfield, one or the other. It's I think maybe he's just confused.
I understand Klopp puts him out there because he has in his locker lashing a ball from outside of the box and getting it on net. The problem is that he does that 1 out of every 10 times.
If that.
One thing that I will say before I shut up for a minute is I understand, having read comments on why Salah was brought off in that scenario. He did look like our most likely goal, but he was also being yelled at by Klopp you need to track back more, and he kind of just sauntered.
I did hear a bit of that, and he said he thought he was the most tired of the front three there. Ben, I mean, would you have subbed Salah off on that, or?
No, I was definitely very disappointed in the choice of substitutions. I thought that was. I mean, I think we were watching together, weren't we, JP?
Yeah.
I think I was making the comment, I just had no idea what he was doing. And it's been, unfortunately, a running theme for Klopp, and I don't know if it's because he's under a lot of pressure, he's nervous, he's just trying to do anything. But his tactical decision-making in terms of substitution, in terms of lineup, and I'm sure we're going to touch on that when we talk about the other 1-0 loss, but it hasn't been there, and it's been confusing. I mean, I've made the joke a million times that Klopp's ace up his sleeve is throwing Origi on at the 87th minute, but now it seems it's thrown on Milner. And you know what? I know Milner's a bit of a cult hero. I know a lot of people love him, but the fact remains he's 35. His best years are behind him. I don't think he's going to be an impact player.
Well, here's the thing. Even when he was 25, he wasn't the goal-scoring threat. He's a great player. I still want him on the team, but I'm not bringing him on at the 80th minute to win the game for us.
Yeah, against a team like Chelsea that has been on insane form. The thing about Chelsea that scared me leading up to this game was under Tuchel, they've conceded something like two goals,
maybe.
one of which was an own goal. The issue is we need to get on natural goal scorers. And correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't Jota on the bench for that game?
He came off the bench, though.
He did come off the bench.
60th or 60th.
That was right, yeah. But Milner's not going to score you goals. Milner is much more of a
penalty, but that's about
it. But he's much more of a defensive presence. And Ox, same, echo what you say, John. I think I get excited. A bit of me always gets excited when I see him because my mind goes back to 2017, 2018. When he scored those goals against City and looked really good, but it's been nothing.
He can crack mode the box. Remember that little outside of the foot flick shot he had last year? That was beautiful, but just not there this year.
I've been very disappointed with Klopp's decision making, tactically speaking.
So I think you look I think the thing that you can it's just to play devil's advocate for Klopp here for a second. I think Klopp's substitutions fall under one of two sort of different avenues. It's he's trying to make a point to a player, one, or two, it was a plan before the whistle was blown. And that's kind of what I thought was happening. I thought the latter was happening when Salah came off the bench because it seemed to me or came onto the bench rather, because it seemed to me okay, we've got Fulham on the weekend and then we've got a Champions League game midweek. That's a situation where you're probably going to ask for Salah to play probably let's say 120 of those 180 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm. Now the thing, and I can agree with you on man management and time management and such, but right now Liverpool just need to win any games, because it's so bad right now. This form can take us right into a game against Leipzig, which we're going to set up in a minute, that might be dreadful, which leads us into 1-0 loss number 2. That was a very